Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. Yeah, this background's a little different, isn't it? Yeah, we're down at one of the local watering holes. It's just a few miles from the house, and while the water is still ice cold, it's almost 70 today, which is unbelievable. So we decided to run down here and cool our feet in the water and let the kids have a little fun, and I thought I'd bring you guys along with me. So, the topic that I wanted to talk about actually kind of goes with what you see. I had a listener send me a message. He responded commented on one of the videos. And he was asking some questions about moving to the Ozarks. What are things like here and stuff like that. I got my little mic on because it's a little windy out. So hopefully the sound comes through. Anyways, I talk about it from time to time about living in the Ozarks, moving here for homesteading reasons, moving here, if you're of the prepper mindset, that I believe it's a very good choice for you to choose to live at. Now, I'm not saying it's the best or it's the only place. I just feel it's a good choice. There are definitely other places in the United States that offer really great places to homestead for various reasons, and there are some that are good places to kind of live as a prepper, I guess you could say. But I believe that the Ozarks is a very good choice for many reasons. I've talked about it in other videos. The laws, the politics in the state really supports it. You don't really get bothered. They don't worry about things like living off grid and collecting rainwater and those sorts of things. Some states kind of pass all these crazy laws about it. The laws for homeschooling is great, and as I've said in the last couple of videos, the Second Amendment laws, gun laws, are amazing in Missouri. Some of the best, and there are some that are being worked on right now that if they were to pass, that would make us probably the best state when it comes to gun laws. So anyways, this guy asks 3 questions. Number 1, what about being so close to the New Madrid fault line, and which isn't too far away. So if there was ever an earthquake, a New Madrid earthquake, how living where we live or in the Ozarks would that affect it? The other one was, is there ever a worry of like Springfield and Branson, which they are the 2 largest cities, or Springfield is the largest city in the Ozarks, especially in Missouri, and they're growing and expanding and sprawling out. Is there ever worry of those cities kind of getting so big that they kind of start affecting those of us out in the country? And then the third one was dealing with people, druggies, out in the country, people that come out here and do their drugs and cook their drugs and stuff like that. So I want to address those 3 things. Maybe I'll talk about a few others. So as far as the New Madrid one, I've done a lot of research on this, and I don't claim to be any sort of an expert, but the research that I have seen of geological surveys show that the Ozarks would actually fare pretty well. It's not going to do as well as, say, if you live in Oregon and the New Madrid fault line goes, but it's going to do pretty well because, remember, while we call this the Ozark Mountains, it's actually just a plateau. It's a plateau that's higher elevation than, the land around us, and the plateau is limestone. Basically the entire Ozarks is this massive chunk of limestone bedrock that kind of is elevated above the region around us. Because of that limestone, everything that I have read, it would kind of shield us from the worst parts of an earthquake from the New Madrid fault line. Yeah, we would feel it. There's no doubt about that. But everything that I have read, all the research, geological surveys and stuff, show that we would do pretty well. I mean, it would happen. It may rattle some things, but it's not going to be at a catastrophic level because that limestone bedrock will kind of act as a buffer, absorbing the energy shocks from the earthquake. The majority of the damage is going to be north and east, and then I guess south. But the majority of the damage, if you look at it, it's going to shoot off kind of east and northeasterly, all the surveys. And this is also going back to the last time that it went, which was back in like the 1820s, 18 teens. I can't remember exactly. Was the last time the New Madrid fault line shook. So I'm not really too concerned with that. It is something that I looked into when we were making the decision of whether to continue to stay here in the Ozarks or to find another place that was a little bit better. And that was one of my, primary things. And it turns out from everything that I have found and read that we should do pretty well here in the Ozarks. The second one is the sprawl of the bigger cities that are in the Ozarks, kind of reaching out into us, country folks. Well, first thing is to understand that there's no real large cities in the Ozarks. Springfield, Missouri is the biggest, and their population is right around 180,000, I believe, 160, 180,000. If you add in the metropolitan area, you're probably going to get close to 200,000. Branson, population isn't terribly high. It's just the fact that it's a big tourist trap and it draws, hundreds of thousands of people a year. And then down in Arkansas, you have the Springdale, Fayetteville, Rogers, Arkansas area. And I'm not really sure the population there, but it's nowhere near what Springfield is. That's pretty much it. Yeah, there's a few larger cities, but, those about it. While those cities are growing, and let's just take the Springfield-Branson area, they are growing, but they're not, I don't believe, at least from my opinion, from watching it, because I have family that live there, and I lived in that area for a while. I don't see that area is growing at quite the numbers that it once was. Back, 10, 15 years ago, Branson was a huge boom town, and it was just growing like crazy. It's still growing, but I don't think it's quite growing at the speed that it was. That being said, it's going to continue to grow. Big cities, they just do that. I don't think that it would ever, and if they did ever grow to the point that they're affecting us out here, it would be long after I was dead and gone, because I live at least 2 hours from those cities. So the odds of them coming out and affecting us is really slim. It's not something I worry about. I would not choose to live near those areas, mostly for the fact that the land costs have gone up quite a bit, because it's a tourist area, it's a big city and a tourist area, pretty close in proximity of each other. So the land prices have just skyrocketed over the last decade or so. And because of that, and there's also more restrictions, building restrictions and stuff like that. So I wouldn't even choose those close to those areas to live because of that. Out here, we're at least 3 counties away from that area, and, we don't even know it. To us, people out here talking about the big cities of Springfield are no different than talking about St. Louis, Kansas City, Memphis. They're so far away. We don't go there that often. No, most people around here don't go there, so they're not really of any concern to us. The other one he asked was about drugs. Well, first off, you can't go anywhere in the United States and not find drug users and drug dealers. They're everywhere, even out here in the sticks. They're just everywhere. Years ago, Missouri was kind of the #1 state for meth production. There were a lot of meth labs in Missouri, and there was a lot of problem of out here in the country, people cooking meth and people strung out on it. Now, there are still people that do drugs. I don't know that those numbers have even gone down at all. But I will say that 2 things. Missouri and other states have done a lot of cracking down on the production of drugs, these meth labs. Plus, that with the fact that certain other drugs are now manufactured much cheaper in Mexico, and they're brought up here, and it's basically put the meth labs out of business. For the buyer on the street, it's cheaper for them to just buy something imported from Mexico than something that's made around here. So the end result is there's not really that many meth labs anymore, most anywhere, and especially here. You just don't hear about too many people doing that. In our area, we never see any visual signs of, there's lots of drug problems around here. I do know of some areas in the Ozarks that exists. Around here, it's not that bad. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because it exists everywhere. So that being said, yeah, that's something you're just going to find wherever you go. You're going to find people that are, have addiction problems, and there's crime. It just exists everywhere. From a SHTF standpoint, I'm not terribly worried about those people because we're not talking about dealing with like drug cartels. We're talking about dealing with, you know, druggy tweaker kind of people. They're going to head for the cities, and if something happens, and they're probably not going to last that long because they're not prepared, and all they care about are their drugs. So honestly, they're not an issue for me. They're not something I really worry about as being a problem. There's enough, I think, still enough good old country boys out here that, you know, if something happens, I don't think there's going to be just massive bands of drug addicts coming out of here in the country to mess with us. You know, if the government fails, then they'll just be in the cities doing their drugs close to where they can possibly find food, because they're not going to be able to survive out here. So that's my kind of answers to those three things. Someone else had asked about tornadoes. Yes, Missouri has tornadoes. Several states do, especially in the Midwest. We are not really in Tornado Alley here. We're south central Missouri, where there's a lot of hills, there's a lot of, you know, valleys, ravines, rivers, and stuff. Now we still have tornadoes occasionally, but the areas that really have a lot of tornadoes are basically west of Springfield, where the Ozarks starts flattening out, and especially along the Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma border. They do exist here, but because of the terrain, they're generally not that powerful. They're not the really big, long-lasting, powerful tornadoes that you would see in Kansas and Nebraska and stuff, because the hills kind of take the wind out of their sails, so to speak, and slow them down. So they're not, you know, a real threat. Not something that too many people around here worry about, because usually when they happen, they're not terribly powerful, still enough to do damage, and if you're caught right in the middle of one, yeah, you could be certainly in danger. But they kind of fall out of the sky, they happen for a while, and then they dissipate. That's the general rule around here. You know, of course, there's going to be exceptions. So anyways, I hope those answer some questions. You know, I'm not on here saying, hey, you all need to move to the Ozarks, but a lot of people ask. I believe it's a great place to homestead. There's still a lot of land here that's very reasonably priced, and the people are really good here. You know, I hear a lot of people say, well, people are stuck up and they don't accept you. If you move here and your intention is to just kind of blend in and live the way people live out here, you're going to be accepted. You know, if you move here and say, well, I'm from New York, and this is how we do things here, and I think we should change the school board, and I think this law needs to be changed, and I'm from California, you know, we did it this way there, and we should do that here. Yeah, you're probably going to get kind of, you know, poo-pooed on, and no one's going to accept you. But if you move here and say, you know what, I'm just going to be an Ozark hillbilly like all the rest of them, and kind of fit in and live the life here, you're not going to have a problem fitting in. So, you know, there's just some of my opinion. I'm not an expert on this, but I've lived in the Ozarks most of my life, especially my adult life. And I've been all over the Ozarks. So I do have some experience to go on. Anyways, that is my video for today. I hope you guys enjoy the view. It is beautiful. There's rock cliffs behind us, behind the screen over there, some beautiful rock cliffs. The water is amazing. It's very clear, even with all the rain and flooding, and it's extremely cold. So even though it's really nice out, the water is just frigid. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'm going to catch you in the next video.